Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeremy Donson here with e7musicschool.com. Today we're going to be doing Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. Super fun song, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. As always, if you like this video, please do be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Jeremy at e7musicschool.com is my email. All right, so here we go. We're going to get started at the beginning. This first verse here is 12 measures, and then you do a fill into the chorus. So let me show you.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. I walk this empty street on the Boulevard of Broken Dreams, where the city sleeps and I'm the only one, and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk out my shadows on.
All right, awesome. So we have 12 measures total here, and the measures are going to be played like this. So we have bass and snare, and bass, bass, snare, and is the main beat for this song. So just to break that down, when you do bass, if I say bass, that's bass with hi-hat, and is just hi-hat by itself. Snare is with hi-hat. So it's bass and snare and, let's do that again, bass and snare and then the last half is bass, bass, snare, and. So when you put it together, you have the beat for the verse. Ready? Go. Bass and snare and bass, bass, snare, and you just keep repeating that 11 measures, and in the 12th measure there is a fill. Okay, so let's speed it up a bit. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, like so. Now, and the easiest way to count the measures. Now, by the way, really quick, let's back step. So you have two options. You can either count the measures to know when to fill, or you can simply know what the cue in is. Like when he says this, then I know on the next measure I'm going to do this fill. So I will go over both of those with you. But really, I think there's not a huge need to count the measures, simply because if you listen to the song, you'll just know when it's going to come. Based on what he says, when he says it, what the guitar's doing, where you're at in the beat, you'll just kind of know. All right, so here we go. So now we know the main beat for the song. At the very beginning of it, you're going to crash. So instead of going bass and snare and bass, bass, snare, and you're going to crash instead of hit the hi-hat at the very beginning. Crash and snare and bass, bass, snare, and. Now this is really important. The golden rule of drumming, it's not always going to be this case, but largely it is. When you crash, you're going to crash with the bass drum. So you're not going to go crash and then bass and snare, and that's a very common issue that I see with many of my students. That crash with bass is the beginning of the song. You're just hitting the crash instead of the hi-hat. So it's crash and snare and instead of bass and snare and. So you're just hitting this with the bass instead of the hi-hat with the bass, right? So make sure it's crash and snare when you go into it. All right, now we get up to the 12th measure. Let's say we're in the 11th measure. Here's how you're going to do this fill. Ready, go, 11. Let's see, without the crash. Here we go. Ready, go, 11, 12, right? So on the 12th measure, what you're going to do is you're going to start it the same way you normally would, bass and snare, but you're going to do a hi-hat drag on the snare drum, and it's going to be a long open-ended hi-hat drag. So it's going to go bass and drag, crash, right? Now, I would go ahead and close the hi-hat when you crash, so bass and drag, crash. And you're going to close the hi-hat when you crash. So what you're going to do there, since you're crashing with the bass drum, is your feet are going to go down together. So you have bass and drag, both your feet are up, and then you close and crash together. So your feet are going to come up and down together, at least down for sure. So you're going to do a drag and then come up for your bass foot, and then boom, come down at the same time like so. Right? So I would get used to doing that first if that is a bit tricky for you. And then once you can do that, then now put it together, bass and drag, crash, crash, and then now the rest of the fill, right? So one more time, we have 12th measure, ready, go, bass and drag, crash, crash, right? Okay, now remember the drag is with the snare drum. Snare hits with that as well. Now, once you do the 2 crashes, your bass continues through this fill. This is commonly overlooked when you hear the song or have videos of how to play this song. This is largely overlooked. His bass continues throughout this fill. So you're going to go bass and drag, crash, crash, 40 and a 1. So crash, crash, 40 and a 1, and the bass continues. So you're going to go crash, crash, and then your right, think of it this way, your right foot or your bass foot matches with your right hand on the snare. Right, 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 right. So if you do it and your foot's giving you some issues, just remember it's right hand, right foot. You just add the left in between. And then that'll give you the timing. And that's actually a really good exercise if you wanted to do that. Here we go. Let's do it again from the beginning of measure 12. Ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Good. All right. Now, lastly, real quick before we move on, if you want to leave the hi-hat open, you are more than welcome to do so. You don't have to close it when you crash. And a main reason why is because the crash is going to be a louder overtone because you're crashing. It's an active you hit the hi-hat on the drag, but now it's fading out some, and the crash is the new overtone that's happening in the song. So if you close it anytime during there, it's going to be okay to do that, just saying. So you don't have to close it when you crash. You can close it at the end of the fill, during the fill, whenever you want to. I think a good rule of thumb to know is, according to music theory, our job as a drummer is to keep time in everything. So if you can have timing when you open the drag, which you need to hit a drag properly, but also if you can have timing on when to close it, it's going to really help you to stay on time even more. So the more things you can give yourself to stay on time, the more on time you are going to be. So that's why I recommend you close it when you crash so that you're practicing timing thoroughly throughout the beat. Little helpful tip per music theory there, but I think that's going to be tremendously helpful for you. So we went over how to count the measures, right? It's in measure 12, bass and snare, or 1 and 2, and you drag on 2, and that begins the fill. As far as the cue in, this is what he says when you are going to do this fill. Check it out.
I walk alone, I walk alone.
So when he says, I walk, on that final time before the chorus is starting, when he says, I walk, walk is the drag with snare. That's where your fill is going to begin, is right there on that drag with snare. So bass and drag with snare, I walk. So walk is snare and drag together. Watch, listen, and you'll hear that.
I walk alone, I walk alone,
Right, so you can hear that very clearly there. So that is what you're going to use as a cue in if you prefer that over counting the measures. Whichever one you prefer, I would say I think it would largely be easier just to use the cue in because, you know, if you're wanting to play this song, you've probably heard it several times and you just kind of know where the fill is going to come in. So that's how you do it with the cue in if you would like to do it that way. All right, guys, so I hope you really enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more, go to e7musicschool.com, and you can become a monthly member with access to this song, the full song for this song, and many, many more, and more are added on a regular basis as well for you to view anytime you want, unlimited access. So feel free to check out the website for those details, and you can also meet with me for a live drum lesson if you wish to do so, and that is also on the website, so be sure to check that out. The links are below, and I'd love to see or hear from you, and truly hope that you reach out or become a member. So thanks again. I appreciate you guys, and until next time, be sure to have fun, stay awesome, and rock on. Later, guys.